What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of MUTTIPS. Before I get started, make sure you like the video, comment with somebody you would like addressed in a future video, and subscribe on YouTube. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month, because the end of the month is our 1,000th show. We're really excited. Anyway, let's jump into today's topic, improvising the long-form narrative, part 3. In this next video, we're gonna get into the story beats, which are just those big moments of discovery or action, just like those things that resonate with the audience and make them excited, and they're waiting with anticipation to get to the conclusion of whatever narrative it is that you're telling. And I'm gonna use a reference point of the movie Toy Story, which again, when you're doing improvised narratives, keep the story simple. Just like Pixar, just like Disney. Keep it simple, because the more complicated that it gets, it's hard to just balance things, right? Toy Story is a really simple story, okay? And I'm gonna reference the story spine that I talked about in the previous video, because it sets up the base reality really well. You know, once upon a time, there was a cowboy doll named Woody. And every day, Woody and all the other toys would relish in just their life of living as Andy's toys, right? Great start off point, right? The beginning of the story sets up these characters, very distinct personalities like Woody, a very tried and true protagonistic character, very likable in the early going. Also like the leader of the group. Like everyone looks to Woody to kind of just help them through this routine. You know, they have their world, they have their reality, and they understand it in part because of Woody's leadership. There's other great characters too, like Don Rickles' character as Mr. Potato Head, that kind of grumpy character who again is played by Don Rickles, who has that kind of humor. There's Rex, played by Wallace Shawn, who's kind of neurotic, even though he is a T-Rex character, very, very vicious. He's very nervous, has anxiety. There's Ham the pig, there's Bo Peep. There's a bunch of characters that are set up in this world, all very distinct, and that's what you want in your improvised narrative. Now let's get to our first big story beat, which is that change in routine until one day. Everything's normal in Toy Story in the beginning, right? But then there's that moment where things change, and that's the introduction of Buzz Lightyear, who becomes the secondary protagonistic character. And Buzz has an interesting, worldview. He doesn't think he's a toy, but he's also just like the opposite of what Woody is. Woody's very old-fashioned. He's a cowboy character from old Western times, and Buzz Lightyear is the new thing. He's a spaceman, right? And he doesn't think he's a toy, which also is something that the other toys resonate with. They enjoy the fact that he is not, he thinks he's bigger than what he truly is. And that's something that people just kind of look up to Buzz Lightyear. And they see his status, and they start to look to him as the leader, right? And this causes a change in Woody, the protagonistic character, and the big change in him is that he reveals flaws about himself now. He's self-conscious. He gets jealous, right? He doesn't like being put in this low status role. Buzz is kind of claimed the top of the mantle, and Woody doesn't like that. And that's something big in protagonistic characters that you need. They need to be flawed. They need to feel things. They need to feel jealousy, anger, sadness, because that will fuel them towards action that causes progressive moments. And that's the thing is, your characters are not perfect. Make mistakes as your characters. Woody makes mistakes as his characters that drives the story forward. And it's all based on his relationship to Buzz Lightyear, and also just him relenting to his flaws. The next big thing that is very crucial to your improvised narrative is consequences, okay? Remember, improvised narratives are cause and effect. The flaws and mistakes that your protagonist makes are going to cause consequences and big moments that are great. They're the interesting part of the story, right? Seeing these characters deal with the aftermath of their choices. So Woody is, based on his jealousy and his drive to be high status, makes a big mistake, okay? He causes Buzz to fly out the window because he wanted to go with Andy to Pizza Planet, which is where they're going, and Andy's allowed to bring one toy, and obviously he knows he's gonna pick Buzz. He likes Buzz. So by getting rid of Buzz, which Wasn't ultimately what he wanted to do, throw him out the window, but because of a mistake he made, it caused that to happen. And all the toys see this and now see Woody as the antagonist of this film. And it's great, right? It causes Woody to be disconnected from the characters that looked up to him. That's amazing narrative storytelling. And it also leads to a further exploration of Buzz and Woody's relationship. It's kind of like a buddy cop film where Woody's like the straight-laced character and Buzz is the oddball character who thinks he's a spaceman, but he's not. And when they meet up for the first time, they have that conflict, right? Woody's angry because it's just like, Buzz, you took everything from me. And Buzz is angry because, hey, Woody just tried to kill him and is trying to interfere with his role as being just a spaceman, right? It's great storytelling, and it's all driving forward towards their narrative arc. Improvised narratives are essentially moments of progressive action that are filled with success and failure, and there's a balance. Because I always say, indulge in the low points of your characters because that creates the drama, right? But also indulge in the successes. I don't just want to see a pity party on stage where the protagonist is just losing. We need to see the successes, because if we see that, then we can buy in that, oh, our character can succeed at the end of the day, even when they're met with drastic odds. A lot of Disney movies and Pixar movies do this, where the protagonist, maybe Mulan, for example, at first, she experiences a lot of low points and then she has to join the army as a way to protect her father. And in that whole moment when she's masquerading as a male, she has moments of success and failure. So the success is when she starts to learn the ways of being a warrior and starts to blend in and be respected by her fellow comrades. But there's also the failures of her struggling on her journey and not being able to fit in. There's a nice balance, which leads up to the ultimate low point when her masquerade is kind of discovered, and it causes her to essentially feel like she's totally failed. And we need those build-up moments, right? Those moments where we invest with the character and see them at the ultimate low point. Have that ultimate low point that was not built with just an avalanche of failure. It was just up and down until it does reach that ultimate low point. In Toy Story, it has that, right? They get kidnapped by Sid. Buzz has an ultimate low point where he realizes that he is a toy and has an identity crisis, essentially. And that ultimately makes the big arc of that movie, which I'll get to in a moment, even more impactful. So show the audience the journey, the successes, the failures, both of them. Indulge in both, okay? Choose to fail and choose to succeed, and choose to tell the story with moments that are worth investing in. Now let's get into character arcs, because this is the moment we're building up to, where your protagonist and other characters experience a change, a transformation, where most character arcs are based in growth, right? They become better than what they used to be, and morally better. Their point of view is enhanced and is more something that the audience can relate to. Woody has a lot of flaws. Again, he's a jealous type. He sees himself as he has almost like a god complex. He needs to be seen as the top tier toy. And then by the end of the film, through his interaction with Buzz and just realizing that Andy, can gain love from not just one thing, from other things, other toys, then he kind of accepts Buzz as, it's okay for you to be, a toy along for the ride with me, because they've kind of been through a lot together. A lot of lows and successes along the way, and it leads to that big moment where, Woody and Buzz are flying through the air. That's they're arcing and getting back to that moment where everything kind of returns to normal, but also things have changed, right? The relationship between Buzz and Woody has improved. Buzz is now not just in a delirium of thinking he's a spaceman. He learns that, okay, he's a toy, and through Woody's guidance, he's okay with it because he knows that he's bringing happiness to Andy. And it's a really satisfying film. Watch it because, again, it's a simple narrative that has very satisfying character growth moments, very satisfying lows and high points, and a very satisfying conclusion. One of my favorite animated films of all time. So now let's get into improvising a long form narrative. And I think one of the easiest subject matters for doing a long form narrative is high school. I've done a bunch of these stories and they're very simple because characters in high school movies or stories, they all have very distinct personalities and there's a lot to go by because we lived in high school. We went through it. So that's why I say keep stories simple. So, start with a subject matter that you went through. High school, we've all done it, right? And throughout the first few scenes of your story, try to again define those roles. Who is the protagonistic character, Maybe an outcast character or a rebel character. And is there an antagonistic character in there as well? It could be maybe a teacher or just a bully or something like that. Is there a love interest or a friends? Are there maybe two protagonists? Just like in Toy Story, Woody and Buzz, they share the protagonistic role as the story progresses. And do they have wants? They should have wants. Wants drive the narrative. Woody's want is for everything to stay the same, to be that top tier toy, which drives his action forward and leads to the consequences of his actions and the progression of the film, okay? Buzz has wants too, he just wants to be a respected space person, and fulfill his obligation as a spaceman. And that want changes as well because he realizes that he's not, he's a toy. And then they both Woody and Buzz learn to have the same wants, a similar want that complements each other. And that's just to make Andy happy and to be okay with not being, the top tier toy. There's a lot of great fun to be had, especially in the high school narrative. So watch one on Netflix. There's a ton of them, TV series, movies, and look at the characters and why you empathize with the protagonist and, why you dislike the antagonist. Go ahead and just delve into some type of a long form narrative based in high school. And I always say this at first, don't worry about doing a whole improvised narrative from start to finish. Maybe do 10, 15 minutes, Think of it as half of the movie. And then after that, stop and just discuss, go over, what happened. Make sure the roles are defined, the names are solidified. Are there consequences that have been happening based on the actions of characters? Are there lows and high points? Did you get to the ultimate low point? And then maybe discuss what could happen. Again, potential. What could possibly happen had we continued the story? What would the low point of the protagonist, the ultimate low point, look like? And, what would maybe a character arc be? Does the antagonist have the potential to maybe change, They can arc too, just like in Star Wars Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader arcs and has a redemption storyline. There's a lot of fun things that you can discover. Keep it simple in the beginning. Don't feel like you always have to just go from start to finish. I always say in the beginning, just start simple, go to a fourth of the way, a halfway through the improvised narrative, stop and just discuss and take all of the knowledge that you have accumulated from this practice and put it into a narrative from start to finish. It's not gonna be perfect the first time. Don't worry, don't strive for perfection right now, okay? Strive for simplicity, and then we can start to flex our muscles and get a little bit more, complex if you wanna think about it, but I think most narratives ultimately, they are best served if they are simple and sweet. And that concludes this episode of MUT Tips, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Again, like, comment, subscribe. It's very helpful to us during this tough time. And again, Made Up Theater is doing online shows every Saturday night. We're about to have our 1,000th show. Whoa! September 26th is when that is, but check out a show any Saturday, 8 p.m. It's online. Go to madeuptheater.com and use promo code MUTTIPS to get a ticket for just $5. And a ticket streams to one device so multiple people can watch from that same ticket. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next time for another episode of MUT Tips. Bye.